Welcome back to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. Today we're going to be sitting down with Ashley and Jenna, who are going to talk a little bit about what it's like for a prospective adoptive parent to sit down and talk with an expecting parent for the very first time. Take it away, Ashley and Jenna. For this topic, I think it's really important that we establish that the story is different for every family. And so there are times when expectant parents would like to meet the family prior to birth, and then there's other situations for when perhaps the first meeting may be post-birth. So Ashley, will you talk to us a little bit about expectant parent meetings prior to delivery?
Sure, absolutely. The biggest thing we want to remind everyone is that everybody is nervous going into those meetings.
Yeah.
I like to call them the most awkward first date of your life, and probably the most important, because this is establishing the beginning of a relationship that's hopefully going to last a lifetime. So knowing that everybody's nervous is helpful to sort of hopefully make you a little bit less nervous. In almost every situation, you'll have a social worker with you. Our goal as the social worker in those meetings is to sort of fade into the background and not be the focus of the meeting, but we're there to help if the conversation hits a lull.
Right.
The big things that we want to encourage families to talk about are the things that they like to do, why they're thinking about adoption. We want them to learn from the expectant parents why they're thinking about adoption. We definitely want to talk about openness and what that relationship might look like, understanding that that relationship is going to grow and change over time, but that you want to sort of set the groundwork of what everybody's expecting, so everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, and a lot of times at the time that you're matched, you're already matched with a level of openness that you all agree on. And so it's really important that when you go into these meetings, you don't feel that you need to promise more because you've already mutually agreed upon a level of openness. So it's just reassuring and kind of talking about how that looks for your family, and how you would like that to start. I also think it's really important when you go to these meetings that you have good eye contact. Don't forget about birth fathers, include them in the conversation. If family and friends are there, you want to include them in the conversation as well. And you just want to be yourselves. You don't want to go in there and say something that maybe wasn't in your profile. You just want to elaborate more on your regular life and your day-to-day. That's what they want to know. They want to know what the child's life is going to be like. So you really want to just paint that picture as is, and it's okay for it to be the way that it was presented in the profile.
Yeah, absolutely. So shifting gears a little bit, what about families that don't get a chance to meet birth parents until after the baby is born, or maybe even after they've left the hospital? Maybe this first meeting isn't until the child is 1.
I think it's very similar in the sense that everyone is just as nervous. And I think that especially more so in this situation, perhaps maybe the birth parents. And I think it's important too that you allow for the baby to be held by the birth parents, that you not only just talk about how the baby's been doing, but how your life has changed and what has been going on in your life. And I also think that it's important that you follow up both the meetings, the before birth and after birth meeting, with a letter to the birth parent, talking about thanking for them for meeting you, talking about looking forward to future communication. And one advice that I always give my families too is to perhaps include an envelope with a stamp for them to return a message with.
It's a really great idea.
I think that's really important, and I think that it's important that in your letters you're asking questions to kind of prompt perhaps a response back.
Yeah, I also think along those same lines, taking photos both before birth and after birth, and then including those when you send a note is really great. Families may also want to bring a gift, both before birth or after birth. I also think that especially after birth, the birth parents may want to bring a gift for the child, and so families should always be welcoming and appreciative of those things, even if it's maybe not the right size or maybe not age appropriate, understanding that it's really important for the birth parents to give that thing, and so you want to keep that for the child when it becomes appropriate for them to have.
Right, and I've also seen adopted families and birth parents parents also bring something small if they're siblings as well. And I think that that's totally appropriate and okay to do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as Jenna's already mentioned, doing your best to be yourself, as well as pointing out any similarities that you're seeing between yourselves. You don't have to reach for them. You don't have to make them up. You don't have to pretend like your favorite movie is Star Wars if you've never seen it in your life.
Yeah.
But if there are things that you're realizing that you have in common, that's going to be the thread that's going to start building this relationship. So it's really important to point those things out.
Yeah, and we find that once that's kind of been established, the level of comfort of everyone is much better, and I kind of see everyone make a deep breath, and then the conversation, it becomes more smooth as well. Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ashley and Jenna, for sitting down and talking about what it's like for an expecting parent to meet a prospective adoptive parent for the very first time. Please feel free to comment below if you think of other suggestions for future topics. Take care.